Just beyond the station, continued Sir Handel, there was a steep bit and a curve. Well, it was wet, so naturally I was concentrating on getting up the hill. As we came round the bend, a tree suddenly seemed to jump out at me. I tried to stop, of course, but my wheels slipped on the wet rails and I ran smack into the tree. It hurt, I can tell you.
Throughout the Railway series, most stories are based on the cutting from a newspaper, the paragraph of a magazine, or even personal accounts from the Audreys. However, it's unique for one to be based on a story itself adapted from a real incident, and this is the case for Sir Handel Comes Home. In 1983, Sir Haydn, while masquerading as the character Sir Handel, ran into a fallen tree near Dolgach, damaging its face, which was bandaged. John MacDougall, who had been Sir Haydn's driver that day, adapted the incident as part of the Talyllyn's News March 1984 issue, with the story being told from Number 3's perspective. Christopher Awdry would later come across these pages, and in 1985 rewrote it for his book, Great Little Engines. Because of this, I thought it would be interesting to look at MacDougall's own story. Being a volunteer at the Talyllyn and caretaker of the Awdry study, I've asked my friend Luke Ryan to give it a read. Thank you so much, Luke, for your expressive narration.
But it was all to no avail, because my wheels stopped turning on the wet, greasy rails. Why, when I'm recording, does the street cleaner pass the house? Dear friends, you may have read in these pages of how confused I have been feeling recently. I've been red, I've been green, with works plates and without, Sir Haydn and Sir Handel, with a face 1 minute and not the next. Well, strange things have happened here since I last wrote to you, which have left me totally bewildered. It all started on the morning of September 22nd. The peak season over, no more racing up and down in competition with all my green mates, and no more hordes of cleaners polishing away my nice red paint. I was feeling rather chuffed when they told me I would still be pulling the trains. You see, my younger brother, Peter Sam, had worn out his valve spindles, poor chap. My fireman had warmed me up and put on my smiling face, and I was looking forward to 2 uneventful trips up the line. I had all but forgotten my feelings of split personality and confusion when I heard a conversation in the workshop. The staff and volunteers were discussing the forthcoming annual general meeting. They all considered that I was likely to be the most contentious issue. I suppose I should have been flattered. But whatever are things coming to if all they can find to argue about is the future colour and identity of Number 3, as they call me. And I was quite upset when one man suggested I should stuff a pipe in my face and use it for target practice. Why the pipe? Another called my face hideous and continued, "It's time it met with a terminal accident." I wonder if he had anything to do with the events that were to take place later that day. Well, after hearing them all ridiculing me behind my back, I began feeling really blue. Douglas, sitting dormant under the next smoke hood, said he would love to feel blue again. I always used to be blue until I came here. Poor Douglas, he always gets the wrong end of the poker. Anyway, I cheered up again when I found that my driver for the day was one of the young fitters from the works. He knows how to treat me, having great respect. He knows how to treat me, having great respect for my sloppy big ends. Christ. The first trip went just as well as I had hoped. Not too many stops and on time all the way. Following a refreshment break at Wharf, I was off again on the 14:45. After a quick slip on the greasy rail, the second trip looked like being as uneventful as the first. We passed Pendray and Bringlass and all was well. After the long climb up from Six Bends, I was looking forward to another quick drink at Dolgach, so I picked up my speed to nearly 15 miles per hour. Then, disaster struck. As I jogged around the bends in the woods, I saw a large tree sitting right across the track. My brakes went on hard and my train alarm gave 3 beeps, but it was all to no avail because my wheels stopped turning on the wet greasy rails and I ploughed face first into the tree. The driver and fireman, their adrenaline flowing faster than Dolgach Falls, went to see what could be done to remove the offending obstacle from its resting place on a carriage roof. It took them, and the rest of the crew, barely 20 minutes to saw one end off the trunk and heave the remainder over the telegraph wires on which it was hanging. Having done that and received a round of applause from the passengers, the driver then came to inspect my front end. He found, to his horror, that my face had suffered severe abrasions to the forehead, a broken nose and a black eye. I suppose I was lucky not to have bent my lamp iron or broken a spectacle glass, but even so, I was feeling pretty rough and shaken as we staggered the rest of the way to Dorgork station. While I took water, the driver amputated my broken face. Well, if losing face halfway through a trip is not bad enough, one thoughtless enthusiast made things worse by laughing at me and taking photographs of the humiliating operation. My encounter with the tree had made us very late, and I had to work really hard to return to wharf in time to make the BR connection. So, back on shed that night, I was feeling very tired and unsure of my future. How could I be Sir Handel with no face? What would they do with me now? The annual general meeting came and went. They patched up my face with bandages and an eye patch for the members' special train. The ignominy of it! I understand the general manager puffed on his pipe and said, "We don't need him as Sir Handel anymore." And the chief engineer, saying, "His red paint is good for a few years yet." After much deliberation, they decided that I must revert to my previous identity of Sir Hayden, but remain red until I need a repaint. How confusing! So, if you are privileged to clean or to fire me this year, please take great care of my paintwork. When my illustrious red livery becomes dull and chipped, they will repaint me again. And I have had quite enough changes recently without that. Thank you. Yours sincerely, Sir Handel of the Cortland Railway.